So, Schwarz, can you tell me what's your background and how come that you are in Shanghai and what you do normally?
Hello. I am a visual interdisciplinary artist. I come from Austria, from Vienna. That's where I am based some of the time of the year, and I'm traveling through many countries, different countries with projects and exhibitions, different occasions. I get invited to come. Currently, I've been on a 3-month residency in Shanghai. I did arrive in mid of September, and I've been now 3 months in Shanghai. I traveled through China a little, and I'm like a sponge and seeing things.
And what do you think of Shanghai and China, other places if you have been, and what have you seen, and what do you feel about this country?
So, well, as it's been now almost 3 months, and I'm so happy and glad that I given the chance to come here. It was my first time in China, not my first time in Asia. I was very much surprised by Shanghai to start with, because that's of course the city I got to know the best, and where I spent most of my days exploring and digesting the Asian, Chinese, Oriental, different approaches in so many ways, and actually depicting them and finding myself as well an individual, being not able to speak the language, so being an analphabet as well, meeting new people, making friends, learning the language. So I experience a lot of help, a lot of open-minded people, a lot of discussions about society, about the world we live in, about things I am busy thinking about, and I met some surprising things as well.
You feel it's very different from Europe in general? In which way?
That's, to bring it to a point where I say this is different or that is different. It's not that easy, but
what is the most striking cultural difference that make you feel very strong, very obvious? Or give you very strong impression?
Wherever I go, I bring myself and my cultural baggage, you want to say so, to every place I go. And I realized, because I am carved by the society I was raised in, I feel a little more free in another society, because it's not straightforward related to me, and I can more experience as a guest, as a friend, what's happening around me. And I think, I don't know, currently in Europe there is a lot of anger, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm always grateful to see something else, and actually see that there at different approaches to the current times. China is facing different problems than Europe, clearly, and I'm happy to been able to been away and been here, not only been away, but I mean, Vienna is a beautiful city, but it's as well dominated by a phenomenon we call the angry white man.
What?
I don't know. I mean, it's some figures like Trump, like
Oh wow.
I mean, the leader of my country as well. He's young. It's one of his features. Young and strong and manly. And they assume to know the way, and I'm very skeptical about, to say the least, about figures who tell me they know the way, because if one thing we all can only know a little and learn from each other, and and guiding guiding the conversation towards a certain direction to shift things, and
So actually, what's your most like in Shanghai?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what's your favorite thing in Europe or in Vienna? And what make you more exciting? I mean,
I think what I like the most here in Shanghai, I like the progress the city seems to be in. So I think it's you can feel the speed on how it's growing and how a discourse is evoking. I feel I get the sense of that, and it's nice to see some of it, to get like to be like maybe a friend and someone who's maybe as well a conversational partner, and so I really like that every day something new is like appearing, and even my very surroundings has been changed in 3 months. It looks different than when I arrived, and I think that's a good thing. But I as well like the continuance of Vienna, which has a complete different history, and everything's very old, and I'm constantly reminded of its history, and it's sometimes becoming very heavy as well through that. But as well, Vienna is a place where which changed through the last 10 to 15 years quite a lot. So Vienna is the city which had the strongest growth in continental Europe as a city. So in Europe, like it's London, but in continental Europe, it's Vienna, and so that's as well feelable, and especially in the arts and the cultural sector, it growed, and a lot of people did come and did leave, and I don't know, it was quite an international vibe as well, something I could feel in Shanghai. So maybe that's something I felt connected and home.
So actually, you're an artist, and as I know, you're feminist, and I mean, how do you feel to be a woman artist? I know the question is so typical, but actually, that's a lot of women artists who face to this reality that in society or in your work, the how to say the fact being a woman, how does it influence or affect your work, your inspirations?
I would say I don't want to use too big of a word, but in some sense tremendous, as the American could say, because I'm a human, and the human history is a history of social genders, and the female and the male construction are the most dominant and prominent ones. And I think a lot of things can be understood through feminism, because it's the one thing which is it's a key to a lot of issues, as well as racism, etc. But sexism is something where that's like the closest to everything. You know, it's like when you have a society where one part of the society, like a huge, like half of the society, let's be like approximately, is second rated by its sex and then by its gender, and I'm not talking about all the other possibilities of intersex and etc. But where this is actually the case, when we don't solve that and when we are not aware about that, I think we cannot continue to engage in a dialogue which is speaking about so much else, like the issue of motherhood, the issue of globalism, the issue of a lot of things. But it all comes to that point that most, like the dominant society structures in this world are patriarchal societies. The matriarchic societies, they happen to have a few, but they didn't survive. They didn't become the leading society structures. So, well, I mean, in that sense, it's something what everyone, I think, should be very busy with, because it's not only reflecting, of course, women, me as an individual. It reflects towards men. It reflects towards, I think, everyone in the world is actually a victim, or I don't know if you really want to say it, but victim is a stupid word.
So, in your work, do you really use this problematic? This, I mean, how do you show this reflection through your work?
So in my work, I really try to articulate, because I write well as well. I write academic papers. That's one way, and of course that's something which is only like talked in the academic discourse. So I appreciate it so much that I have my artistic approach, where I'm engaged with in so many different projects, where I always can bring those kind of topics into the projects. So they kind of come with me as a package. I don't know, you could say, so you book that and you get that. You get like a someone who's like repeatedly pointing towards that. Because if we don't, for me, if I don't find an language to talk about that, I feel like I hardly can talk about anything to continue the conversation. So, I mean, the way I engaged with it in bigger projects was one of my biggest projects happened to be like an all-female project, not by intention, but just as things grew. It was those people who understood my topics the most, and talking to male artists, I always feel the urge to explain my position, than rather start from from the point of productiveness. They are often male artists demanding a clarification and is it really hard to be a woman in the society and a female artist or whatever. So I enjoy to work with women, and when men are as well part of the project, I always try to put a spot on how the patriarchic structures are shaping the work progress, and just being aware of them helps. And then it doesn't say we can overcome them. I don't think I'm the solution, but reflecting them and creating awareness is already like very helpful, I feel.
So I know this clothes designed by yourself. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us the story behind this clothes?
Mm-hmm. So this was part of a collection I realized in 2016 already, and I called it the Tiger Coat. And I was a portrait of a lot of female artists around me, and I designed and crafted clothes for them and in dialogue with them. So I engaged in the needs, what they needed what kind of clothes were needed for different kind of situations, and especially that coat was made for a great female artist from Denmark, and she described it like she needs something to feel empowered, and to feel when you go out, when you step out and you step in the society, like in the public society, like as an artist, you are as well always like most of the time in figure as well, at openings, at performances, etc. Mm-hmm. We often engage in such being instrumentalized mm-hmm. as a figure. I think that's part of the practice of being a contemporary artist. So this coat I made in dialogue with her to make her encouraged to feel super strong, and yeah.
So do you define yourself as a fashion designer?
No.
Why?
Because I think the fashion system is nothing I want to be a cooperative alliance partner. The art system is nothing to be like proud of, neither in all the ways, but let's talk about the fashion system. I think I worked in the fashion industry. Of course, one has to have a look how things go and to form an opinion. And I decided I cannot take part in that. I think the way of dressing is, and we don't overcome that. We have the need to dress, and I think this particularly representation of yourself should be enhanced by very careful suggestions. And I feel in fashion it's fast, dirty, careless, backless. Everything is possible. No one cares about what's actually like. What they actually do there, and so this goes further in the process of being a designer. When you design, no one cares that male designers design for women. No one seems to have a problem with that. I do. I think it's weird that male designers can just legitimately say they have the right to dress a woman and to do with the female body whatever they want. I feel that's rape in a lot of sense. It's indirect rape. It can be rape if it's cruel, women gonna step on super high heels, corsage and everything. I mean, that's cruel. So there is already like a problem on that sense. And then it comes further. The whole system is a hierarchical system. We know all about the manufacturers collapsing in India. People are being used as human material to produce another cheap shirt, another cheap fabric, and this doesn't. At some point, it seemed to not be a big surprise for me that everyone is treated disrespectful, not being not aware what is actually happening, and so yeah, I mean, I like the Dolce Gabbana
recently happened in China.
Recently happened in China occasion. It was something I followed with big interest, and on some sense, I was for a long time waiting for something like that. And I wrote a little statement on that as well, a little feature where I was describing as well that it's not only racist, but Dolce & Gabbana in that particularly commercial were sexist as well, and they used to be sexist, deeply sexist for the last 20 years. I remember their commercials when I was a kid in the early 2000s, and yeah, they showed scenes of gang rape. It was
it's very
indication of gang rape, where female was like surrounded by men who opened her pants and everything like that, and everybody seemed to be okay with it. So the surprising thing is they did come through with it a lot, and I was sexist as well. It didn't come by a surprise, and it didn't come by a surprise that it such a huge rage was created by the fashion industry. Yeah, and it's a symptom. It's a symptom of a bigger structure of the fashion industry, and all these. I like the term of patriarchal double agents. It's some people who are in the fashion industry and support with their doing the structures we live in. But yeah.
But like out of this political system, I know you have background in fashion school, so of course you have interest in this. So just despite all this political stuff, this background thing, I mean, what's the most interesting point in fashion for you? It's the style, it's the design part, or?
So, I mean, the concept is such to dress up that we need an outside shell, and this is the first layer we engage with another human being, with the very surrounding, is super interesting, and that was where I got fascinated with, and the political aspect it occurred to me way later, and it just happened to me that I'm not able to work as a designer and craft like even though I enjoy the process of designing, and I enjoy the process of creating, and once things are like more clear, I would love to engage in that topic, but currently, as in this fashion industry, I don't see a spot for myself.
I see. And who's your favorite fashion designer? Do you have?
No, but no. no, I mean there's, ideals drop. Some people you like. No, even those. No, that's I.
Not really.
No, I mean there are good parts of some fashion designers' career and some parts of them. And I mean, I come from Vienna. I come from the place where Helmut Lang grew to be. It was his hometown, and it was someone his visions and his aesthetics formed my aesthetics. So I share that very much. But there is no one I can compromise and say, yeah, he or she's the one. Too many complications.
Yeah. So now, recently, do you have some projects in art, and what do you do exactly?
So now I am currently working on I have a little show before I leave here, but that's just a work in progress. To a bigger topic, I'm engaged in the construction of the subject, and I try to build a model of which I describe under the 3-letter sentence, from subject to persona to object, and it works the other way around as well, and it describes as well within the fashion industry and in society as general the construction of the human persona. And I use examples of model history, you could say so already, popular society history, to construct something which is which drags the line from being like an individual, like a subject, towards the objectification approach of female bodies. And yes, that's something I'm currently like engaged intellectually and in my artist practice.
I see. And do you think throughout your artwork, is there something like, I mean, sorry about my question, like a lot of artists, like when I go out to see contemporary art, sometimes I have problem to understand it. Of course, a lot of people say contemporary art, you don't need to really, understand, but it's something inspire you, something make you feel something. But I myself always have this need, this intellectual reflection needs. What do you think about this?
So I like very much that term which occurred to me like some years ago, and which I feel very familiar, like connected to. It's artistic research. And so it combines something with science, you could say, like general science, like really like engaging into like seeing art more as a way to understand the current society structure we live in. And there is so much, there are so many details, and it's very hard to see the value of one painting in the singularity. That's like, for me as well, it's something I think I often think as a painter, even though I don't see the I couldn't be a painter in some sense, because being like, even though some good painters are out there, I don't want to mash shit on painters in general, but I understand that when you see the product of something exhibited, you feel disconnected. And I feel as well with a lot of artists disconnected. I don't appreciate all of the art which is out there. I'm in the lucky position to be able to work with artists who are engaged in topics which are beyond my own artistic engagements, such as I'm working for an artist who is engaged with bio art, it's called, and it's how performativity is operating in the human cells, and how the topic of the performativity can be dragged into the new dimensions of biological extermination. You know, like when you know what kind of field does that open up? You know, like and really stretching the term. So I feel very much connected to that, and if there's something I can add to a conversation in general, I would be grateful. And but of course, in conversation is always in conversation. You know, it's kind of a environment where access is hard, and yeah. It's a fine line between being able to engage in a closed conversation and being accessible.
No, I found this point is super interesting, like art to be a conversation, because a lot of art, it's like a monologue. It doesn't give you like, how to say, there's no interaction, there's no connectivity inside, which can make audience or make everyone who see the piece feel shallow or feel empty or
yeah. I totally get that. I often feel the same way, and I don't think it's this linearity of how I operate in my art as well. And why I maybe as well like that I'm engaged with the subject of fashion as such, because it feels like so many people have like a standing on that and seem to be able to get in conversation with me.
So like we talked so much about your work.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your person?
Okay.
So, I mean, what's most interesting point in your private life? I mean, what inspires you in love or in friendship? What's the most important thing?
Well, I've been always dragged towards female friendships. I've been having so many of them, and
so many.
Well, yeah. Since I'm a kid, I'm friends with girls, women, and however, and it's such a diverse universe. How
you never consciously choose. I mean, even when you were kids.
Yeah.
When I was kids, I don't have that conscious. I just go through the flow. But do you consciously choose only be friends with girls?
Well, I mean, there is this phenomenon that it's not only me, but not every kid is like that. But a lot of kids are like that they just happen to sum up with their same sex. You know, they don't make a difference between race, whatever. I think. But between sexes, they sure do. And between old and young, and they don't understand that there is like father, mother, male, female, old, female. This is like too abstract. But in their circles, yes. And I surely understood when I was a kid who's a girl and who's a boy. And I was like, well, I play with the girls just because it's different. It's different things we liked. And yeah, the boys were, they had their own story going on, and but we of course played together. Just they weren't my best friends, and one has to accept that it's just my best friends always, like, besides from a short period of time, been girls. And
Okay, so you realize when you were kids you are more close with girls than with boys.
yeah.
But after, I mean, why you're not like other girls to just hang out with boys? I mean,
Why I don't have a boyfriend?
yeah.
I mean, I had boyfriends, and currently it's just I'm in a relationship with a woman, and this happened almost when I now almost when I turned now 30. As I hesitated before to draw the line between friendship and romantic relationship. That's maybe the consequence as well, because it seemed to me in hetero relationships that I always had to explain myself of being a woman constantly over, and as Judith Butler says as well, some things cannot be experienced when you are from another gender, and so it's a constant arguing, it used to be a constant arguing, and yeah, with in my relationship with a woman, I feel we overcome that point and we start somewhere else, and we deal with the fact of two individuals trying to have a relationship.
So actually, how do you define yourself? As a bisexual, lesbian, or just yourself queer?
I think queer fits it the best. Yeah.
It means it could be anyone. It happened to be a woman. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your point.
Yeah. It could. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any, difference to be with a woman than be with a man? Is there any major, how to say, something really different? Being with a man and being with a woman?
As I said, with being with a man always meant to describe myself as a woman, and I got so tired of it, and often men don't accept the fact that women experience the world different. And I don't say I think I understand men as well. I just say I think there is difference on how I experience my world.
Sure.
I think there's just to be an acceptance on that, and this occurs to be like complicated again and again, because people like to tend to make things equal, and I don't believe in equality.
You mean equality between genders?
For example.
Between man and woman?
Yes.
You don't believe?
No.
And you don't believe this can be somewhere, someday?
No.
Why?
Because I believe there are there are always differences between, people, and we shouldn't go into the direction. That's my own personal approach. I think we shouldn't go into the direction of. In German, we have that word which is Gleichschaltung, and when I hear that word, my hairs go up like that.
What is that?
Which means something like equality, and it means equal. Everyone is equal, and but I think as individuals we define ourselves to be like individuals. Like individual from each other. We are one in a kind, and we cannot be systemized.
Sure.
Because that would mean like denying the differences, and I think there is more like enhancing the differences and creating a society where differences can be like accepted, and where we don't have to be all equal to accept that we are equal. Yeah.
So now, do you feel more satisfying with a woman than your previous relationship with a man? It can be sentimental, emotional, physical.
Well, I mean that's a very private question, but I'm feeling challenged as well. I as everyone, I mean, if you have like a serious like engagement with another person, it's work. It's problems. The complexity of life of two people and comes together, and especially when you're like 3 months in China and when you're like there and here, and this doesn't make it easier. Yeah.
But in general, you still feel better?
I feel very much understood from my partner, yeah. And I'm happy in my relationship. And I don't want to compare it as well, and I don't want to say my previous relationship's been like bad, and of course I respect men, this has to be said as well. I just think the roles they have to play, I feel pity with them as well.
Pity with
men. I think as society should give them as well the possibility to relax.
Sure.
And to trust women, trust women as maybe we know things in another way, and in this small, sometimes the details are describing as well a bigger context. But it seems to me, men, they try to hold towards something, how things used to be, towards tradition, and that maybe describes why no country has hardly how was it 5% of worldwide leaders are women, and parliamentary representatives there are no women, and it's just the thing. I think men, they don't believe or trust women that they actually know another way, and women should not frighten to do what they want, and should point out men splaining, men
spriding,
and this dominance, should learn what dominance means as well, because I think it's great what sometimes female leaders can do.